Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Villalobos, WISA's Community Manager, and I would like to welcome you to this WISA Strategic Partner webinar with Lockheed Martin on the topic of elevating your pitch. But before we get started, I would like to talk a little bit more about the WISA's organization. We often go by our acronym WISAS, as in We Sisters, because that's exactly what we are, a global cyber sisterhood. We're a 501c3 with over 7.5 members in 70 countries. WISAS is a premier organization with global reach dedicated to bring together women in cyber. Our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cyber. All of our initiatives are made possible by our supporting strategic partners such as Lockheed Martin. We have our professional affiliates, student chapters, equity, advocacy committee, mentor mentee program, speaker bureau, job board, and so much more. You can view our trainings and initiatives at the website at www.wisas.org and to learn more about different ways to get involved with WISAS. We all of our wonderful initiatives to our strategic partners, our tier one partners being Akamai, Amazon, Battelle, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon University, Software Engineer Institute, Cisco, Fortinet, Google, Lockheed Martin, Meta, Microsoft, Optum, Sandia National Labs, and SentinelOne. We all of our remind to ask questions throughout the webinar. You can put them in the chat and the presenter will ask them at the end. We have the experts here with us and they look forward to hearing from you. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our WISA's newsletter at wisas.org to stay up to date for any upcoming WISA events and trainings. And with us today, we have Lockheed Martin on the topic of elevating your pitch. And I'll hand it over to JD.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. A little bit about Lockheed Martin first. Over 100 years ago, actually in August, Glenn L. Martin established the Glenn L. Martin Company in Los Angeles, California. He started the company after building his first plane in a rented church. 4 months later, and 400 miles away, Alan and Malcolm Lockheed founded the airplane company, later renamed the Lockheed Aircraft Company. Today, we do a little bit of everything. So we, aircraft, all domain operations, autonomy and AI, deterrence capabilities, maritime systems, space, sustainment and training systems, and lots of transforming technology. And then our biggest and our favorite one, cyber. So we're very happy to be here with all of you. So first, let's get to know our panelists. Please tell us a little bit about, Lockheed Martin, the company you work for, what you do, and how many years of professional experience you have. Also, if you have an alma mater or organization you belong to, please give it a shout out. Who would like to kick us off?
I'll start. This is Deirdre. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, everyone. I'm Deirdre Peters. I've been with Lockheed Martin Corporation for over 20 years. I've supported projects and initiatives in the areas of cybersecurity, acquisitions and divestitures, digital transformation. I've enjoyed my career here, and I'm looking forward to the next few years as we continue to transform our processes. I'd like to give a shout out to my undergrad alma mater, Morgan State University, which is in Baltimore, Maryland, and to a nonprofit where I am the first vice president of the Annapolis Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Bria Rathway, and I work as a campus relations manager here with Lockheed Martin. And I have been with Lockheed Martin now almost 4 years. In my role as a campus relations manager, I support 4 of our national universities that we do recruiting at. So attending career fairs, we do tech talks, info sessions, essential skills workshops, everything like that. I born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I still live here today, and I got my undergrad at Carlow University, where I was a member of the women's basketball team, and I double majored in human resources and management and health services, and I have a minor in information technology.
Hi, this is Dawn Beyer. I'm a senior fellow with Lockheed Martin, and I also led the development and implementation of the Lockheed Martin Cyber Resiliency Level Framework. And we use that as a way to measure cyber resiliency maturity of weapon systems. I also led and executed the 2022 Lockheed Martin Cyber Defense Technology Strategy and developed the 2023 Cyber Defense Tech Strategy. I founded and was the first chair of our Lockheed Martin Women Fellows Network. So the goal of that is similar to WESIS. However, it's focused on top talent. And also on the board of governors with the Women in Cybersecurity Organization. And I'm a co-chair on the System Security Engineering Working Group for the International Council on Systems Engineering. Thank you.
Wow, definitely in a room of some incredible, talented women. And I did forget to introduce myself. I am JD Vargas. I'm currently a Cyber Systems Security Engineering Associate Manager with Lockheed Martin. And I'm also the current president of our WESIS Lockheed Martin affiliate chapter. I'm very excited to be on this panel today and hear a little bit more about how to elevate your pitch. So an elevator pitch is a brief, persuasive speech that you use to spark interest in you. A good elevator pitch should last no longer than a short elevator ride of maybe 20 to 30 seconds, hence the term elevator pitch. It should be interesting, memorable, and to the point. It also needs to explain kind of what makes you unique. So the panel is going to help us understand a little bit how we can craft and leverage our elevator pitches as we navigate different situations, speed networking, mentorship, conferences, for example. So I'm going to kick us off with our first question. How can our audience leverage their resume to tell a story about themselves?
I can start it off. So I think, a part of my role is I am looking at resumes constantly. And the thing I know that managers are looking for, especially at Lockheed, are very well-rounded individuals. So obviously, everyone's attending their university, getting a degree. What else are you doing? Are you involved in, different student org groups? Are you a tutor? Are you a member of a sports team? They love to see those well-rounded individuals that know how to work in a team setting. Also, another big thing is I always tell students to have a skills section listed. A lot of the students I work with are engineering majors, so that technical skills section really goes a long way, especially with Lockheed Martin and the managers when they are reviewing your resume. So I always tell students, that's something that you really want to highlight, especially at the top of your resume as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's great, Bria. Any thoughts, Deirdre, for this one?
Yeah, one thing that I'd like the audience to consider is definitely defining their brand. If you're working in different spaces, make sure that it's consistently and concisely demonstrated on your resume, that your artifact is consistent if you're using a certain color theme, if you're using certain font, but to make sure that it's packaged in such a way that it really tells the story about your professional experiences.
Definitely. Those are some great points. Dawn, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have some things on what not to do. Leveraging my own resume. So try not to use a bunch of acronyms. And I'll admit the last position that I applied for within our corporation, I actually had an acronym list to my resume, which got a lot of, it got a lot of attention, I can say that, because normally people don't have that. Start strong and end strong in your resumes. I say this even for when people are putting together award write-ups or performance reviews. A lot of times, or fellow nomination packages, which in Lockheed, they're around, 60 to 80 pages long. But you never know how long someone has to review your information. And if they're starting from the first page, top to bottom, you really want to make sure that that first quarter of the page or first half of the page starts out really strong. Something to where they're interested to continue reading it. I've had people ask me, is it good to have 2 pages or should I have so many pages, 6 pages, 17 pages, whatever? It really depends on how long you've been in industry specific to the position that you're going after. And if you're going to have more than 2 pages, you need to make sure that the resume does align to the requisition. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, absolutely. Great pointers. Moving to our next question, face-to-face interactions are one of the reasons people go to conferences, career fairs, or many of these networking events. How can they use being in person with peers, all these companies and employees to really, really sell themselves? And I'll start off with Bria.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I would say, the biggest thing when you're attending, whether it be career fairs at your university or national conferences, the biggest thing I would say is you want to make sure you're prepared. So again, preparing your elevator speech, what you want to talk about with the recruiters or the managers that are there. Also, another big thing I would say is doing your research on that company. So, when you're going to speak with someone from that company, you can talk about different things that they might be working on, the values, how you connect with them. That really shows that you have done your research and that you're interested in the company. I would also say, finally, a big thing is show enthusiasm, be excited. The saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, that's completely true. I would say, a ton of the students that, end up getting jobs here with us at Lockheed are the ones that are constantly emailing me or constantly calling me, and showing so much interest, not only in the company, but their application, ways that they can improve and ways that they can stick out as well.
Yeah, that's great. Deirdre or Dawn, do you want to jump in with any additional tips?
Sure, I'll jump in, JD. Thank you very much. One thing that I would recommend that one would do is to utilize different apps. I know from a recent conference that I attended, I downloaded the Link and Blink app. It allows you to create a QR code to your LinkedIn page. You can easily have the person that you're speaking to scan it so that it's efficient. I know some people may still use business cards, but sometimes those get lost, and you don't want that to occur if this is a company that you're really interested in. In addition to what Bria said about demonstrating your knowledge of the company, if it's a company that you're not very familiar with, make your introductory statement to say, hey, I see that you work for company X. I'd like to connect with you to talk with you for another 10 or 15 minutes about what your company does to see if there's some potential career opportunities for me. But I do know that leveraging those 2 apps, Link and Blink, for the last few conferences that I've attended have been very beneficial with me being able to expand my network and also explore potential opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to see that in action with you at the WECES conference that we had here 2 months ago. That was amazing. I know we made a lot of great connections. I just watched you pull out your phone and your QR codes and, line up all your networking. Loved it. Dawn, do you have anything to add?
No, I think both of them added a lot already. I'll say one thing that has worked for me is, well, first of all, I'm an introvert. Which if I say that on other phone calls, they wouldn't believe me. But I am actually an introvert, and I recommend people that are also introverts. You need to kind of step out of your comfort zone, and reach out and meet people. That helps build a network as well. And also, I look and see if there's any workshops of interest, because in workshops, you're interacting with other people. You're not necessarily sitting and watching someone talk. So that would be an additional recommendation to what has already been said. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. So next question. We know there's a giant gap in cyber roles right now, right? So many of us are looking to transition into cyber. With that said, how can I frame my elevator pitch when cyber was not my original career path to show relevant experience? And I'll start with Deirdre.
Yeah, thank you for the question, JD. One thing that I've done for people that I mentor that may not have had a cyber background is to encourage them to volunteer in their IT department, whether they're working at a bank, whether they're working in a different industry. Every organization has a computer network of some sort. Each person has to use their credentials and or a password to authenticate to a system. And so my recommendation is for them to change their thought process on that. They haven't been in cyber. It's just that they're looking at what they do day to day differently and how they can make the connection on the access control, identity, authentication with the applications and systems that they currently use in their current role. And so my recommendation would be to say, although I did not start in cyber, I found an opportunity to stretch and volunteer for my current organization or a nonprofit, my church, and be able to learn some of the fundamental tech skills to be able to transition into that role. And I've seen it work very well for those that have volunteered, because most organizations aren't going to turn away someone wanting to do something for free. And if you're able to build your resume, it allows you to be able to compete for positions in that field. Thank you, JD.
I just want to piggyback off real quick what Deidre said. She made a great point, about how you can present it like a negative and bring it into a positive. I might not have had these skills then, but now I am doing X, Y, and Z to learn them. And I think it goes a long way too, where, when you're in undergrad, college, maybe not sure exactly what you want to study or what you want to do. I've seen a lot of students that have transitioned and they said, I ended up taking this one class and then, I fell in love with cyber and now, I'm switching degrees and things like that. So I think, really making that personal connection and showing ways that you are showing that you're interested in your passion for cyber is great to, stand out as well.
Yeah, I love that advice. Great. Okay, next question. If someone is at a network event or chatting with someone in the hallway, what should they do to leverage this opportunity? And I'm going to start with Dawn on this one because she's really great at doing this. And I also saw this in person at the WC's conference.
Thanks, JD. What I do is I'll go up to the person, introduce myself, and then after that, I start asking questions about them. And normally when I'm doing this, I have a little bit of information on the person that I'm reaching out to. And I'm not saying, for everyone to go out and kind of, do all that research. I mean, it's just research that I prep for when I go to conferences, if there's certain people that I want to meet. But people like being asked the question, how did you get to where you're at? Do you have any lessons learned? And try and keep the questions short. So then the third question would be, I'm really interested in doing this. What recommendations would you have? So first starting off with showing the interest in the person, and then transitioning that interest to yourself and asking for their advice on what they would do. I do know a lot of hiring managers, there's just not enough cyber people to go around. And a lot of times hiring managers are looking at individual soft skills and possibly giving people opportunities that may not have the experience, but they have the desire and soft skills to perform the work. And so therefore, if you don't have the experience in cyber, really leverage your personality and those soft skills when you do meet people that could possibly help you transition into a career that you're interested in. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, absolutely. Love those recommendations. And I'm going to jump in as well. I know that there was a lot of caregivers that took a pause in the workforce during COVID, and just a lot of events that have been happening in the last couple of years. Leverage the soft skills that you use, to run maybe your household. Are you good at planning events? Those project management skills, those communication skills, all good soft skills that we need in cyber. So just wanted to add that tidbit there. But any other add-ins from the panelists? Okay, great. So next question, what are some things people should do to make sure that they are memorable, either with a new connection or a potential employer? And we'll start with Bria for this one.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, so I think, how you stay relevant, stay, in the person's lives, and also that you're memorable. A big thing I think is to, tell that personal story, make that connection with the individual that you are speaking with. And then also, again, going back to the enthusiasm, being excited, making sure when you're speaking with this person that you are engaged and interested. Body language goes a really long way. So, if you have your arms crossed, or, you're not focusing on who you're speaking with, and, you're looking everywhere else, that shows that you're disinterested. So I would say, make sure your body language, you're enthusiastic. Again, get contact info, whether you can connect with them on LinkedIn, their email, work phone, and set something up that maybe, whether you meet on a regular basis or, just every now and then, to help.
Yeah, great tips. Deirdre, Dawn, anything to add?
One thing I'd like to add is, for people to just be bold and take a risk, right? The only thing that the person that you're attempting to connect with can tell you is no, or they can demonstrate that they're not interested. But if you don't ask, if you don't say, hey, I'm interested in these things, or these are the skills that I've developed so far, I'm interested in increasing my skill set in cyber. Would you be willing to talk with me for another 15 minutes? May I get on your calendar? If you don't ask, you'll never know, and you may miss that opportunity, because most people who are in this industry, before it was called cyber, right? We know what it took to get here. And yes, while my undergrad's in computer science and I've been in the space, I understand that that's not everyone's traditional path. And I'm always looking for an opportunity to connect with someone, help them, first of all, maybe with their resume, identify potential free cybersecurity training that they could lean into, but also helping them talk through their soft skills. So my recommendation, again, is to be bold and take a risk.
I love that. That's great advice. Yes, they probably may not see you again. So, as they say in sports, shoot your shot. You never know what you're going to get out of it. Okay, next one. How can people leverage LinkedIn or social media to deliver their elevator pitch? We'll start with Deirdre.
So this is a good one for me. I have just recently started leveraging LinkedIn a lot more and trying to be consistent with posting content. And one thing that I focused on was making sure that my LinkedIn profile was uniform and consistent, that I had a banner, that my, excuse me, about me reflected what I wanted those in the LinkedIn community to know about me. And also posing the question, hey, let's keep the conversation going, whether it's with regard to cybersecurity, digital transformation, whatever that industry space may be. I want people to see my profile as wanting to connect and talk about what they're experiencing in their environment or their industries. And also, excuse me, making sure that you are looking at posts, you're responding, you're engaging. I think that would be another way to utilize LinkedIn as a platform, and making those connections with someone that you don't know. I've had several virtual chats with people who have connected with me through LinkedIn, and we've talked about their current career. We've stayed connected to just stay in being able to understand what they're looking to do and trying to help each other progress.
Yeah, definitely great tips. Any other tips from our panelists?
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. I think, the big thing is personalization. So, making sure you have a good photo, a good headshot. And I know a lot of either different companies or your universities are able, you can attend their career services. They can help make sure, your picture's on a good background, something that you would want your future employer to see. Also, I think the personalization goes a long way with your about me statement, talking about what you are interested in. And I know a few times for me that people have just reached out because of the about me, or they saw my background of like the Pittsburgh skyline. I was like, hey, I'm from Pittsburgh as well. And, started connecting that way. So again, just being able to, personalize that and make it about yourself. And then also that way other people can connect with you as well. But Deirdre made really great points as well.
Yeah, great points. And I do want to remind the audience to use the question feature if you have any questions that we can get into. And before we get into some of the questions we already have, while we have focused on our elevator pitch today, is there anything else from our panelists that you want to recommend or share based on your own personal experience?
This is Dawn. I'll start off. Having a network is extremely, extremely important in any profession, I would say, and especially in cybersecurity. A lot of people don't know where to start. How do I start with getting a network or identifying the right people? And obviously, you already did start because you're on this call. And this call is for the Women in Cybersecurity organization. But there's other industry associations that you can leverage. And there's also a lot of academia activities that are going on, especially something from where you may have attended college. And then there's also a lot of community initiatives as well in the elementary schools and high schools. So there's a lot of opportunity for outreach, and I would recommend taking advantage of those opportunities and developing that network, and then start using it to help you get to where you want to go. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. Deirdre, Bria, do you have any last tips or advice for our audience?
I would just say, again, practice makes perfect. So, always practicing your elevator speech, but then also remembering that it's constantly changing as well. So, whether you're taking a new class or you have a new role in your job, adjusting your elevator pitch to reflect that. And, whether you're presenting it to, your friends, your family, career services, definitely get as many different sets of ears to listen as possible, and always requesting feedback on ways, that you can make it better or things that you might need to change in it as well. And also just want to talk, like, networking is so huge, especially, you could have a mentor, at your one job. I know here at Lockheed, I have a few mentors, but then I also have a mentor from my past job as well. So, keeping those lines of communication open, that way you're able to connect with not just only someone in your organization, but outside as well, to hear what else is going on, whether it be in the cyber world or anything else that you would be interested in.
Yeah, and I just have one item. It's just that the elevator pitch, own it. It's reflective of you and your experiences. I do X because of this, and this is the impact that what I've done has had in a specific industry for a specific organization. I think if you own it, it will help you to be confident. And when you speak it, it's just going to flow right off your tongue very easily. You won't be nervous. You won't feel any anxiety because it's you walking in your own space that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I love that advice, everyone, especially with the imposter syndrome. Being a woman in cyber, I think a lot of us sometimes can feel unconfident depending on the room that we're stepping into, but really just rehearsing in there and knowing that we know what we're doing, what we're saying. I think that definitely really helps. So great tips. So now I'm going to start off with a couple of questions that we have from the audience. First question I have is from Virginia. So Virginia asks, I have an upcoming interview for information security policy and governance. I am planning on developing an elevator card in hard copy to share during my interview. What do you all think of that?
I'll go first. I think it's a great idea, but I want to make sure that it's targeted and it's focused so that it doesn't take away from the conversation. So my recommendation would be that if you're going to create this card and if there's an opportunity for you to send it to the potential employer in advance, and maybe with a high level statement of what the intent of the card is, so that when you get into the interview, they've seen it before and you can speak to it and socialize it and personalize it based on the discussion that you're going to have.
Yeah, great advice, Deirdre. Definitely agree with that. All right, next question from Nicholas. Hi, team. What are you seeing from our practice in hiring space? Cybersecurity goes hand in hand with data science and other domains. Should one stick to a particular domain, or do you recommend a candidate to have 3 or 4 areas of competence? Something like computer networking, data science, project management, industrial control system security, and or malware analysis. I'll start with John. What do you recommend? What are you currently seeing right now with cyber?
Okay, so there's more than just the technical side for what I look for and what I'm looking at if I am reviewing resumes. And a lot of times in interviews, you may not get a lot of technical questions. You may get a question like, have you ever made a mistake, and what did you do to fix it? So be prepared for those questions. Going back to the specific questions on that listed all those different areas, of course, it's always good to have more than one area of expertise, and it also looks like you're interested in learning more than what you may have originally learned and did. But always make sure that whatever you're doing is aligned to the rec. So if the rec is specifically looking for technical experience, especially in the required, because there's usually required and then desired areas of the rec, make sure that your resume and your interview address those, especially the required parts of the rec. So it doesn't matter how many things you did. If the things don't align to the rec, you may never even get the door open. And if you do get the door open and you get an interview, again, you want to make sure you're answering the questions. And I always recommend people when they're done, when the interview is done and they ask you if you have any questions, always have a question. Make it, because it just makes it look like you've been engaging and that, you're following on the discussion. But a good question to ask is, is there anything I missed? Is there anything that I may not have covered from the questions that you asked that I can take the opportunity to cover right now? Thanks, JD.
Yeah, great answer, Dawn. Next question. What advice would you give to a college sophomore who's just starting her path in cybersecurity and is very involved in various organizations? We'll start with Bria.
Okay, great. Yeah, so as a sophomore, being very involved in organizations is definitely a plus already. So I think, that is a big thing, is getting involved with different organizations, whether it's, for your major or outside of it. Another thing then, as a sophomore, I would really start looking into internship and co-op opportunities, especially in, different areas. So maybe, you're interested in a Lockheed Martin, or maybe you're not, and that's completely fine. But the biggest thing is you want to get the experience. That's what the co-ops and the internships are for, to see if you, would like working in that certain industry or not. So I would say, to start applying. I know specifically for Lockheed Martin, we do about 70 to 80% of our hiring in the fall timeframe for our internships and our early career positions, which seems very early. But I know some, freshmen, sophomores might not be aware of that. So that's something that I always like to tell the students, that I'm communicating with is, once you get back to campus, and you're getting in the feel of things, I would say, a few weeks after that, to start looking at some internships opportunities or co-ops for, that spring or summer. And really, just use your time, at college to, get as much experience as you can, just because There are certain courses that you have to take. Obviously, you'll have to take them, but anything outside your coursework as well that you might be interested in or you might have a desire in. I know that's how I really ended up changing my majors. I had a course for something, ended up loving it, and ended up changing my major. So you never know what you can find if you go outside of your scope as well.
Yeah, thanks, Bria, for that. Okay, our next one for Deirdre. What basic cybersecurity skills and certifications do you recommend if someone is switching their career to cybersecurity?
Yeah, thank you, JD, for the question. One basic, I know, definitely the Security Plus. I think that one is a very introductory, fundamental certification to basically understand the terminology. And it's more so you have to know the answer. It's not subjective. It's not a scenario-based type of exam, but you have to know, for example, what port is Telnet for, as an example on that. That could be a potential exam question. If you're wanting to learn more about the networking side, because networking and then cyber kind of go hand in hand, the Network Plus would be another one. And if you really want to get more detailed into computers, definitely the A Plus. So it depends on where you are and what level of knowledge you're trying to acquire. But definitely, if you're just trying to get acclimated to cyber and get introduced to the different terminologies and understanding how cyber can be applied, I would highly recommend the Security Plus exam. And I think it's offered through CompTIA.
Great advice, Deirdre. Thank you for that. Next question. What would you recommend to improve soft skills? Dawn.
Well, first of all, a lot of us see ourselves differently than what most people see us as. And a good way to do that is ask for feedback. Within the organization that we work in, there's an opportunity to, I think it's like Full 360 or something. You guys may know what the actual name of it is, but you can get anonymous feedback on how you're doing, which also covers not just your technical part of it, but just how you execute and your soft skills. But feedback is always good because, like I said, we're really hard on ourselves. And we may think we have a weakness where someone else may see it as a strength. So always, be aware that those things can exist, that you may be hard on yourself, harder than anyone else would be on you. But for soft skills, I would definitely recommend getting other people's feedback and also seeking recommendations as well for soft skills. There's a lot of different types of training that universities offer and organizations offer to expand on soft skills. But that's the way I approach it. Someone may have another way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Good advice. And I would also say, look at what soft skills do you already have? Take note of those because a lot of the times, we already have these soft skills. We're just not aware of them. Call them out, communication. I mentioned project management earlier, organization. So just keep those in mind, how you can tie those into those basic requirements when you're looking into a job rec that you're interested in. Then the next one.
JD, before you move on, I wanted to just add one other thing, if you don't mind, for the soft skills, is that some of you, if you're not in another organization, lean into something that you're not comfortable with to enhance those soft skills. So as JD mentioned, if you're not comfortable with speaking in public, or if you're not comfortable with interviewing, finding an organization like Toastmasters where you're able to work on your public speaking, and finding a mentor that will allow you to do a mock interview if that's something that you're not comfortable with as well. So I just would encourage you to get a mentor, multiple mentors, and utilize them to help you build up those soft skills. Thank you, JD.
Yeah, thanks for that ad. And next question for you, Deirdre. what positions would be best to look for in entry-level cybersecurity?
Entry level. I know that you could potentially start with like a service desk or a help desk. While you may get tickets, you'll start to get familiar with some of the tickets that are sent. For example, someone can't log in and be able to potentially start to work some of those tickets to get familiar with the security problems. So maybe starting at like a help desk or even as an analyst. I know a lot of people may not like logs, but I always say logs are your best friend. You're able to really figure out the story of where things started, how we got to where we are, and being able to figure out what the problem actually is. So if you have an opportunity to be a part of a help desk, be an analyst where you're looking at logs, or you're a part of a team that's going to roll out some type of endpoint platform or anything with regard to an application that's going to focus on hardening an environment would be my recommendation.
Yeah, great tip. Our next one for Bria, are there any specific tips for neurodivergent candidates who may not be as adept at networking and or struggle with body language?
Yeah, great question. So again, I think it really comes back to the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become at it. So, whether that's practicing with your friends, your family, career services, your mentor, different things like that. That way that you are able to receive that feedback and then work on it for the next time. So I would say, again, just in the saying, fake it until you make it, completely okay to use, in your head. As well. And also, companies also hire all abilities. It's okay to make mistakes. It's all going to happen. You're nervous. So again, I think just practicing will help you and help those nerves. So the more that you do it, the more calm and the more easy, it becomes for you.
Yeah, great tips. Any other additions from the panel on that? Okay, next question. What would be your advice for a non-traditional student with gaps on their resume? Bria, you can probably kick us off with some good tips on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, the biggest thing is gaps are completely fine, but what are you doing in those gaps? So if there's different things that you're able to add in there, that's what we really like to see. So whether, you're going back to school, a different role that might not be related, that is completely fine. Recruiters, managers are still looking to see, what you have been doing, in that time. So again, I always tell students it's not a bad thing at all to have gaps, but you just want to make sure that you are able to talk about it. And again, sometimes if you're not able to communicate with, the recruiter, the manager face to face or email because, they're looking at your resume, before the interview or things like that, you want to make sure that your resume reflects the story that you're trying to tell as well with the gaps.
Yeah, great tip. Next question is, if you have an idea, proposal that you might think would be a good fit for the company, what would be a good way to pitch it to the company? And I'm going to send this over to Don, because Don has championed many efforts and has very successful in pitching and in championing even our WeSee's affiliate group at Lockheed Martin. So, Don, what advice do you have for those seeking to propose something to a company?
Hey, thanks, JD. Well, first, a lot of companies do have external email addresses that they put on their websites, and some actually are solicited. They have a page that they're actually soliciting proposals, or they're soliciting recommendations. I know for us, we have an external cyber website, and there is an email address there. So that's one way of doing it. Would be to, and keep it short when the person doesn't know you. Try and get the point across that you're trying to make, or the proposal or the recommendation or the idea out You don't want to give anyone everything though. So make sure that it's short and to the point. LinkedIn is also another way. So if you have an interest in a certain company, you can usually find someone in LinkedIn and reach out to them in the messaging as well. And internally to Lockheed, we have different ways of sharing ideas, but externally, I would say those would be the two big things. One, look for that email address that is external and that you can leverage, and two, leverage LinkedIn. Oh, and another one is conferences as well. You can also pitch your idea at a conference, finding someone there that would be interested in that idea. It's a long list of ways to do it, but those are three ways that are probably most common.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely, conferences, summits, all good ideas, good ways to pitch those ideas and get exposure as well to external companies if you're going external. So next question for Deirdre, how do we go about getting a mentor? What are some avenues and some steps we can take?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that, JD. I think my recommendation would be to identify someone that is in a role that you're interested in, connecting with them. And again, just saying, hello, I saw your profile. You're in a role that I'm interested in, maybe 2 or 3 roles from now. Would love to know if you're open to a mentoring relationship. But not only that, if you're looking for a mentor, you also have to communicate to the person that you want to be mentored by what you're looking to get out of this relationship and how often you want to be able to communicate, because a lot of the responsibility will fall on you as the mentee with saying, these are the 3 things I want to talk about at our next session, being organized and focused to have those targeted discussions so that it adds value to whatever your short-term and long-term goals and objectives are from a career perspective. Also, maybe if you're not on LinkedIn, conferences, right? Bumping into someone, starting a conversation, finding out what they do would be another way that I would recommend that you identify a mentor. You can, if you're a student, you can also look to your professors. They may be part of other organizations that they could connect you with someone that's interested in being a mentor as well. So my recommendation would be to start with your university, if you're your alma mater. If you're not a part of any external organizations, I would encourage you to join an external organization that you're interested in, and also identifying people on LinkedIn and other social media platforms that are working in the spaces that you pursue.
Yeah, absolutely. And WESU's just kicked off its first mentorship program. So I hope to see some of you all on there as well. And then remember, you can have more than one mentor. You might have one mentor that you bounce off business ideas or professional ideas, but then you can have a mentor that you kind of confide in. So make sure those partnerships are strategic. But yeah, always remember you can have more than one mentor. Next question, when you look at resumes, what's something that stands out or something that you look for specifically? And this one's for Bria.
Yeah, great question. Again, when I'm reviewing resumes, I'm looking a lot at our interns and then also early career hires, just to, be aware of what I'm specifically, looking at in the population I'm dealing with. So, what things stick out to me. Again, this probably seems very simple, but having your grad month and also your grad year listed, specifically here at Lockheed Martin, that makes a really big difference. If you just put 2023, if you're May 2023, we know you're looking for full-time, but if you're December 2023, you would be looking for an internship. So again, little details like that really go a long way. Also, I know we talked about this earlier. Don't abbreviate things on your resume. We use a lot of like Control F as recruiters when we're looking through resumes, and we're typing again the whole word, things like that out. And then if you might have it abbreviated, we might miss it, when we're looking for it. Also, we want to really have your education at the top of your resume as well. One of the main things that we are looking for. Also, again, talked about the technical skills section goes a long way. Also, if you have room for a coursework section, there are managers that love to see, the different courseworks that you're involved in. I would also say any project work, whether that be classroom experience, whether that be internship, co-op. Again, love to see the hands-on experience. Also, with working with a team as well goes a really long way. I'm trying to think anything else.
Yeah, no, that was great, Bria. Thank you for that. I'm definitely going to be using that myself. Next question. What advice would you give to someone transitioning into cyber, and what kind of skills would you recommend? And that one's for Dawn.
I'm going to start off with, I'll just use us as an example. So some of the skills are, do you know how to do risk assessments? I also like to see people that have situational awareness. Are you up on current events? And when I say current events, it's the whole entire spectrum. So, there's a lot of political infighting, and people are polarized. But in cybersecurity, we need to look at everything, right? So you need to look into, so what I'm saying is, let me give an example for watching the news, which a lot of people don't really watch the news anymore. They get their news off of like certain sites, but like, one extreme is Fox News and then another extreme is CNN. So there's the whole spectrum between those and in between. And you may get something off of one area that you're not going to get from another area. And so by looking at that whole spectrum of information, you'll have more knowledge on what's going on, and you can make your own decision because you've been informed on that. Another thing is basically having systems engineering experience or systems architecture experience. And this is all before the technologies. So if you look at the technologies, we have AI, ML, there's hypersonics, there's, edge and distributed computing, there's autonomy, quantum, there's all these different technologies. And that's great to have all those. And depending on the job, it would be required. But at a minimum, have those skills. If you're going to develop something, you need to understand systems engineering. If you're going to test something, you need to understand, what does a test engineer do? How do I create test plans? How do I create test scenarios? For anyone that's going into cyber, you need to understand your risk. How do I assess risk? How do I mitigate risk? How do I do cost-benefit analysis on the courses of action in regards to my choices of the risk, and what's going to be the good decision while we're developing it, and what's going to be or may be the better decision when that technical solution goes into an operational environment. You have to ensure that the controls are effective over time. So those are things that I would look for as the basic things. So risk, situational awareness, systems engineering, systems architecture. I'm not saying have all of those at once, because that's a lot, probably what I just threw at you. But have those basics understanding, especially if you're going for, you're interested in a position with a defense contractor. You hit the right question, JD. Obviously, I was passionate about that one.
I loved it. I think your accent came out. It was great. That was awesome. All right. So we're going to go back real quick to Bria. She had something to add on the question on when she's looking at resumes as a campus recruiter, what's something that she looks for, something that kind of stands out. Go ahead, Bria.
Yeah, thanks, JD. Sorry, I blanked out and then totally remembered. I was like, wait, this is important. I just wanted to mention, tailoring your resume to the job that you're applying to. So again, when you're applying for jobs, you might be submitting the same resume, or you might need to change up a few things here and there. Especially at Lockheed, we have a basic qualification section. And I always tell students that's the first place you want to look, because, those are the things that the recruiter, the manager, you have to have in order for us to move you forward on this position. So tailoring your resume to make sure those are highlighted. And ways that you can talk about them as well. Also going through the job description, highlighting different, verbs, keywords that you can use, pull out of the job description and put them into, your resume as well. Not only does it show that you have experience in that, but then it also shows that you were able, to do your homework and you're familiar with the job description, and what this job, would entail.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Thank you so much for coming back and adding that, because I think we forget sometimes, we're in such a hurry. We just try to cookie cutter our resume onto everything. So I love that. I want to say thank you so much to WeSees for giving us the space today to come on here and speak to our audience about elevating your pitch. We hope that you learned something new and you walk out of here with some new confidence. We would love for you all to connect with us. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn and to visit our Lockheed Martin website as well. Thank you all so much and really appreciate it. Thanks to our panelists as well.
Thanks, JD.
Thank you.
Thank you.